advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, everyone. This is Atty. Mabanes, and you're watching Legal Network for Truthful Elections, or Lente, here on GNN. And joining me as host is Atty. Caritos.
Good evening, Atty. April.
Good evening, Atty. Just to have a recap, ano ba yung naging discussion natin last week, Atty.
In our last episode, na-discuss natin yung voting stage of the elections. So, ano ba yung mga na-discuss natin? For example, ano yung preparations na ginagawa ng mga teachers bago magsimula yung botohan? Ano yung ginagawa ng COMELEC bago magbotohan? At ano yung ginagawa ng mga voters during yung election day mismo, voting day?
Okay. So, based on our discussion last week and even during our first telecast, what we always want to show the televiewers will be a different face or different perspective sa elections. Diba? Like, hindi natin madalas naririnig ano ba yung mga kinaing o yung mga paghihirap na pinagdadaanan ng teachers, lalo ng mga EO din natin sa ating mga lugar. No? And also, in that line of discussion, what we want then for our show this week is to show yung mga mukha behind those volunteers during elections. So we'll be discussing election volunteers. We'll be looking at different organizations like NAMFREL and also PPCRV and also Lente rin. And also listen to the stories yung mga tao that really is involved sa groundwork. Unlike yung madalas natin nakikita ng mga mukha, yung mga head ng mga organizations. And to aid us in the discussion this evening, we have as our guest, first, Mr. Paolo Maligaya.
Magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi, Paolo. Yes. And we also have Mr. Kenneth Dillena, PPCRV Youth Coordinator.
Mr. Paolo is the Senior Operations Associate from National Movement for Free Elections, or NAMFREL. Okay. And also, maybe we can also share then our experiences as volunteers for our organization, Legal Network for Truthful Elections. Okay, just to start the discussion, Paolo, ano ba yung NAMFREL or kailan ba siya nabuo at ano ba yung rason kung bakit nabuo yung National Movement for Free Elections? Maybe can you give us a little background?
Well, siguro mas alam ito ng mga parents ninyo.
Baka parent mo rin.
Yeah, officially, of course, NAMFREL was established noong 1983. And ang first major activity niya ay to observe yung 1984 Batasang Pambansa election. And ang sumunod dun is yung 1986 SNAP election. So, ang NAMFREL yung nag-observe at nag-monitor at nagbilang ng parallel, nagkaroon sila ng parallel count noong 1986 SNAP election, which by the way, kina-commemorate natin yung 25th anniversary nun ngayong week.
Yes.
So, it was
specifically what day?
February 7, 1986. So, this week is the 25th year of the SNAP election and yung involvement ng NAMFREL doon
Bata pa kami nung time.
Yeah,
bata pa tayo nung time.
Yeah, I was 9 years old.
Siguro si Kenneth hindi pa So, punta naman tayo sa PPCRV. Kailan at bakit nabuo yung PPCRV, Kenneth?
Yun. Ang PPCRV is medyo bata pa. It started last 1991. Nung kasagsagan ng Guns, Goons, and Gold. With the triumvirate, yun ang tawag namin sa kanila, si Ambassador Henrietta de Villa, siya yung national chairperson ngayon. Siyempre, ang makisig natin si Cardinal Sin, at saka si Commissioner Heidi Orac, di ba? It's the church, the government, and the civil society acting as one. And PPCRV is a national, non-partisan lay movement. And siyempre, church-based, parish-based. Yeah.
So, yun ang pinagmula, Paolo, correct me if I'm wrong, NAMFREL is the first in the world na parang, am I correct?
Yun yung sinasabi, like even, of course, at that time, I wasn't involved yet. But, for example, the National Democratic Institute, yung Washington-based na election monitoring organization din, they acknowledge NAMFREL as the first one. I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure that there were minor efforts to observe. I'm not sure how minor, but there were efforts to observe elections prior to the NAMFREL's involvement in the mid-80s. But yun yung we are being acknowledged
as the first citizens movement na talagang nag-watch ng election, or the first movement who does the parallel count.
I think it's the same.
It's the same.
Pareho yun. Yung nag-parallel count
And the
then
same na involved talaga.
nag-observe ng pangmaramihan.
Parang national in scope. Siguro meron maliliit, no?
Maybe, yeah. I think meron nung around 1950s, meron ng nag-observe ng elections sa Philippines, but not as big as what started in the 1980s with NAMFREL.
Not as institutionalized as NAMFREL have done in the past. Okay, so after nakita natin, no, so lay-based, tapos first, no, in terms of history, why did you decide to join your own organizations? Ano ba yung nagtulak sa inyo?
Ako started last year lang eh. Kasagsagan yun lang siguro, graduating na ako nun eh.
At ikaw na ang coordinator ng
youth,
campus youth.
Kasi sabi ko, paano ba ako makakapag-inflict ng change? Especially Polsai ako, di ba? Hindi naman pwede yung pinag-aralan natin na political party, suffrage. Paano natin ita-transform yun into something that's tangible, di ba? So since may knowledge na tayo about the government, about the society, paano yung change? Paano natin may inflict yung change? Di ba sabi nga nila, if you want change, be a part of the society that inflicts change, that advocates the same change that you advocate as well. So, nag-meet kami ni Ambassador, tapos nag-volunteer ako sa kanya, tapos yun, that's the start of the story. Yun.
How about ikaw, Paolo?
In my case, I started as a staff member. Hindi ako kaagad volunteer.
Kailan ka naging staff member pa?
1998. So, I started with NAMFREL in 1998.
Matagal na rin.
Yes, but there were years na hindi ako member ng staff.
Okay.
And then, yung years na yon, doon ako nag-volunteer. So, I would, nagpa-file ako ng leave sa work para mag-volunteer sa
Talaga may ganun,
sa NAMFREL. And why do I do it? Why do we do it? Because it's a very concrete way on how we can get involved, kumbaga. I mean, in school, siguro in political science, lagi mong naririnig na, students should be involved. Sa universities natin, laging sinasabi na we should be involved. Ano ba talaga yun? Ano ba yung getting involved? So this is one concrete way to be part of the action and to really effect change.
Attorney, siguro din a little din on our organization din naman para, di ba, kasi
parang episodes na natin na-orient about our organization. Pero kung yung Lente, kung i-consider mo na magkakapatid yung mga CSOs, ang pinakabunso siguro sa tatlo yung Lente. Kasi yung Lente nagsimula nung 2007.
Recently lang talaga.
Bakit nagsimula yung Lente? Para malabanan yung sinasabi nilang dagdag bawas. Yung dagdag bawas kasi nangyayari yan at the canvassing stage. At i-share lang natin sa mga viewers natin, yung canvassing stage, hindi siya normal na proceeding. Dapat may alam ka sa batas para maka-function ka or maka-operate ka efficiently at that stage. Naisip natin, may mga volunteer lawyers naman, ng mga law students, na gusto magbantay rin ng eleksyon. Tapos meron silang specialized knowledge. So, naisip ng mga different CSOs na kailangan namin ng lawyers group para bantayan yung dagdag bawas at the canvassing stage. So, nabuo yung Lente.
So, it's more of a legal group or legal organization. So, we talk about bakit sumali. How about yung involvement naman ng mga organizations in the past election? Like you said, you started in 1986 and PPCRV also started right after. No? Ano ba yung mga naging involvement? Siyempre, I guess you've been there in all the elections or yung mga ganong klase, particulars.
Nakilala yung NAMFREL talaga sa pag-hold ng parallel count. Yung tinatawag na Operation Quick Count.
Alala ko mag-volunteer ako niyan sa atin na yun dati for parallel count.
Although hindi lang yun yung, before talagang nag-o-observe na rin ng elections ng NAMFREL because at that time it was, mas mabuti nga ngayon, mas marami ng organizations doing different kinds of things when it comes to election monitoring. Iba-ibang aspects kasi yun. But there was a time that it was only NAMFREL who was doing those things. So, kumbaga, besides yun sa parallel count, nag-o-observe din like violence, etc.
So, eventually,
I think nag-poll watching pa rin yata nung una pa before PPCRV. Pero mas maganda nga ngayon, mas marami na tayo.
Nag-specialize yung mga grupo.
Oo. But besides that, NAMFREL also is involved in monitoring elections outside the country.
Wow.
So,
yung mga observers, no?
yeah, so we have been, so we were able to observe na elections and participate in creating monitoring organizations as well in more than 30 countries.
Wow.
So regularly, kapag may mga elections, for example, especially in Asia, we get invited to go.
So parang it's more parang model din on how, or siguro para rin based on your experience, how to put up this kind of organization din sa other. So parang you also share your experiences.
Yes, that's very important kasi yung experiences natin, actually, marami nagsasabi yung elections sa Philippines na yun yung pinaka-violent, mas pinaka-maraming body count, mas complicated ang issues. So mas, actually kapag lumalabas kami ng bansa and we get to observe other elections, yung elections sa ibang bansa, parang minsan ang tingin namin,
ano nga ba?
ang simple naman ng mga problema dito. Unlike
talaga?
for example sa Pilipinas na napaka-complicated. So yun, isa yun sa mga sa involvement namin. And then ngayon, NAMFREL is also involved in monitoring yung performance ng government.
So meron ding after.
May project na kami with DepEd and with DOH. So nagba-branch out na kami. So after the elections, then what? So governance na. So monitoring yung governance.
Okay, so how about PPCRV, Kenneth, ano bang mga naging involvement from the time it has been organized back in 1991?
Actually, marami na involvement ng PPCRV sa mga citizen arms, mga ganon. Tapos, yun nga sabi ni Sir Paolo, after elections, what? Kasi si PPCRV, di ba, wala masyado kaming fanfare. We don't go to the mainstream medias, ganyan. Kami, doon sa parish level, syempre national kami, doon kami, binabantayan namin yung iba't ibang local government units. And we watch over them kasi nga yung thrust namin is good governance, responsible citizenship. So, it pursues even after elections.
So meron din talaga, right, after elections, hindi lang nag-i-end yung role din, no, ng organization. So how about,
Dahil tinanong ko na tinanong ko na ako kanina, might as well, ibabalik ko sa yung question. Ano na ba yung naging involvement ng grupo natin for the past, 4 years?
sa akin. Yeah. Siguro like what the two of our guests already shared, no, yung trabaho naman hindi lang nag-i-end after the elections. And since we are a legal group, ang pinaka naging thrust natin right after the elections, legal reforms. No, what we do is we conduct focus group discussion, just like itong araw na to, we had a focus group discussion on RA 9369, yung second automated law. And what we do is we look at ano ba yung mga dapat na pagbabago dun sa mga laws na yon, and also voters registration. And what we do is that kinukonvene namin yung mga iba't ibang tao, no, that can help us in the reform, like yung mga nasa Congress, nasa COMELEC. So, yun. So, it's more of legal reforms after. So, I guess it's really tama lang naman, no, na yung ating trabaho hindi lang nag-i-end during elections. Kasi, right after elections, also, like what the two of you said, nandun yung governance, di ba? Talaga ba lahat ba ng mga pinangako ng tao o ng mga nanalong kandidato, ginagawa ba nila yun?
It's good you said that kasi nga, in between elections actually, mas maraming ginagawa yung mga organizations natin kasi that's the time when you advocate for electoral reform.
Yes, I agree. Kasi sabi nga nila, ano pang ginagawa nyo after?
Yeah.
Ganun kasi ang perception ng tao.
We get that a lot.
Elections
Like,
lang,
so
diba?
walang election ngayon, ginagawa nyo. Actually, mas marami.
Actually, maraming eleksyon, di ba? After ng national, mayroong barangay, may local, may arm elections, di ba? Marami din, di ba? Because our work din naman, hindi lang elections, you also have to prepare for the next elections,
course,
di ba? So, mahaba rin, no?
So, napunta na nga tayo dun sa preparation before elections. Ano yung preparations, Ken, ng PPCRB before elections? Ano yung
Actually,
mga ginagawa?
The usual preparations, no, we try to secure yung champ. Kasi sabi nga nila, ano ba yung champ nyo? Laging tinatanong. So, we have to secure the clean, honest, accurate, meaningful, tsaka yung peaceful elections. So, lagi kaming champ ng champ, di ba? Yun. Tapos, yung mga ginagawa wala. Wala. Tapos yun, yung mga katulad ng quick count, yung count namin na yung CBL, di ba, yung mga pinapadala, so sinesecure din namin na para maging malinis talaga siya. Yung pag-secure din ng voter selection list, yung mga ganon.
So, may mga ganon din.
Oo, kasi di ba marami tayo, last barangay elections, ang daming flying voters na nahuli ng
dami rin sa amin
coordinators, di ba?
How about kayo po, Paolo, ano ba yung mga preparations?
Preparations ng
Trainings,
organization?
yes, or even training volunteers?
Actually, so before the elections,